that, but the basic one before then is, so what really occasioned your transitioning from broadcasting to mainstream politics? Has it always been a thing you wanted to do?
I should have even done politics earlier. I was a student politics. I was in student politics way back, you know, in Legon. I was the vice chair of Women's Commission. I became the local NUCS president and the external affairs, you know, director for University of Ghana. I was representing Volta Hall, my hall, in Senate for the 4 years, and I was a volunteer at Radio Universe. That's really where I started my radio. So I've always been an advocate. And I tell people that when you come from this part of our world, you know, of our country, the northern parts, and you see the systemic discrimination that was occasioned as a result of colonial rule, where we were mostly conscripted to being the hewers of wood and the drawers of water, a word that Professor Sotori, you know, shared and taught me when I was in his geography class in Legon, that the north were the hewers of wood and the drawers of water. If you go to many farming communities across the length and breadth of the country, you're going to find a lot of our northern brothers and sisters who moved to settle and work on these plantation farms. So it was a deliberate, you know, colonial strategy to ensure that the north does not develop infrastructurally, because they saw the intellect, they saw the sheer strength, you know, of the typical northern man and a northern woman, and they thought the best way is to use us as human, you know, cattle. But so yes, so that kind of deficit in infrastructure. I mean, I always say, give an example. The first secondary school in southern Ghana, Mfantepim, was established in 1876. The first secondary school in the Northern Territories was established in what? Tamale Secondary School, 1950. My brother, have you seen such a gap? When would we ever catch up in terms of our even basically our educational outcomes? When will we catch up? My uncles, the late Bin Sali and co, they from Upper West region, they had to walk all the way. Sometimes, you know how those days to come to secondary school. So there's been a historical underdevelopment, and but for education, some of us wouldn't even be sitting here, because when we go back home and see our colleagues who stayed, our fathers took the decision to leave and sojourn to the south in search for greener pastures, and they believed in education and put us, and today this is where we are. So imagine just the numbers of people and how uplifted this our community would have been if we had similar start-off point like the rest of the country. Not to say that there are not poverty points across the country in different places, but the systemic discrimination against our part of the world means that we must all be advocates for development and progress. And that is really where my love for activism, my love for representation, because representation matters. If you're a country of different people, different religions, different beliefs, different regions, different cultures, at the foundation of our spirit must be mutual respect and inclusion. So when we go and look at, you know, we look at our national leaders and you don't see somebody who looks like you, who speaks like you, then you don't feel that this country is you know, you are part of this country. And those feelings lead to feelings of despair, of, you know, ill feeling, and sometimes it can become a breeding ground for problems. And that's why sometimes when people want to use people, they'll come and organize people, because young people are sitting in benches.
They're
idling, and that is not good enough. So that is why some of us have always been activists, and naturally from CSO to media. Last year I ran a women in media organization, Alma, and we did a campaign on increasing women's participation in local government. And as we speak, over 17,000 or so assembly office. We had less than 5,000 women going into the contest. And when the results came, less than 5%, about 4.8% of the elected district assembly officials were women.
Okay.
Less than 5%.
That's under
and this is local elections. This is district levels where there is a woman who are the ones cooking, who are the primary users of these local services. They go to antenatal, they are primary healthcare givers. They take the children to school, they attend PTA meetings, they are in the markets, they are the ones who deal with sanitation issues, they dispose rubbish. So if there are people who should understand how our district should work, why shouldn't their women be in those districts to give real life solutions to the problems they face on a daily basis? These are some of the challenges that call for elevating the issues on a bigger platform, because you can talk all you want, and we keep saying that women should be in politics. We are not going to get 40% women in the next parliament because so many women lost their primaries.
Sure.
We have a 275 member parliament. It is divided for the women, 20 for NDC, 20 for MPP. There are 40 women in parliament. Many of them have lost, at least not many, but some of them have lost their primaries, including sitting MPs and deputy ministers.
Sure.
Right? So we are most likely not going to hit up to 40 if the few women who are on the ticket don't get voted for. So that's why I'm just going to make this general appeal. If there's a woman in your constituency, consider her. If there are two women in your constituency, one is MPP, one is NDC, consider the NDC woman. That's what I'm going to say for now.
But why would you settle for NDC and not the NPP? At least we are told there are those who have the people of the country at heart. We are recently
told you that?
We are recently told by the running mate of
Constitution coming to force.
That obviously is JJ.
It's Jerry John Rawlings. The PNDC NDC transitioned Ghana into a democratic, regime. And I always say that, you see, the antecedents of the New Patriotic Party can be traced to those who created the fair school and who stopped the rise of Ghana's development. They are the ones who started the 1966 school and removed Nkrumah, the African of the century, the Pan-Africanist of the century, a global icon. It is the antecedents of the New Patriotic Party, in connivance with the CIA, who cut short this country's development and introduced us into an era of military takeovers. They cannot claim any sanctity because the history does not bear them out. The history shows that they actually led to the forestalling of our fast-paced development. So they can't say that. 1992 Constitution ushered us into another democratic era. Jerry John Rawlings, as we have seen it, is the most enduring stabilizing force of Ghana's history. After his last coup, the PNDC regime, have we ever had any military intervention again? He ushered us into a democratic regime, did 8 years, saw a peaceful transfer of power from one democratic regime to another democratic regime, and we are now 32 years into the Fourth Republic. The most enduring stability that this nation has, received, and it's as a result of the leadership of the founders of NDC. The NPP can't take that. It is the 1992 Constitution that sets up our development mandate for us. It is the 1992 Constitution and under the NDC that Get Fund was set up. Get Fund is the most important intervention in our educational sector that saw the expansion of education, access and affordability across the country. So when they come and they say that NDC has not brought in any social intervention, what is Get Fund? What is capitation grant? What are all of those issues?
Capitation grant was introduced by them.
Yes, rural electrification project. Please, who brought it? Under the NDC. I'm a young girl. When I grew up, I still haven't forgotten 31st December Women's Movement under the leadership of Nana Kunedu. Send your girl child to school campaign was one of the priority interventions that she drove to ensure that girls went to school, stayed in school. As a result of that singular action and campaign. Do you know that Ghana has now attained parity in terms of basic primary health care? In fact, we are now even going a little beyond parity. That is what leadership that thinks long term does, not popularism.
Wouldn't you attribute that partly to the introduction of the school feeding program by the
when did school feeding program come? So I'm saying that if you cannot acknowledge, you know, your opponent's contribution to the foundation of this country, setting the foundation, because government and governance is a growing and going concern. It's a continuum. People will lay foundations, and it is expected that you should build on it. But when you come and build on it, then you say that no, you are the one who has envisioned it. When the Constitution already spells out that we envision a country that would have a progressively free senior high school, progressively free from F-cube. It used to be free compulsory universal basic education to this free, and we're even envisioning a situation where up to the university tertiary level, education should be free for its citizens, because education is a vital input. So the MPP cannot claim all of these things. I used to work in an NGO that did and tracked mutual health insurance schemes prior to the NDC MPP coming into power. There were pilots that were encouraged by the government, because when you're going to do a big program like this, you have to pilot.
But those were championed by the private sector.
So you see, this is the example they give. There's no private sector intervention that can come into force without collaboration with government. Absolutely. When it has to do with the citizens. It can't
so there should be facilitation by government, but it still remains the initiative of the private sector.
You can't even say this for sure and for specifics, because, you know, ideas always come from government officials, and ideas do come for private citizens, and sometimes there's always an agreement. Try it, because maybe you may have an existing infrastructure that, I mean, I don't want us to stretch the point, but what I'm trying to say is that it cannot be that a private institution will come up with a policy and do it for a government to embrace it if the government was not aligned in principle about that intervention. Do you see it? The hospitals that were set up under PNDC, NDC administration does that not? So you are saying that NDC does not think about health outcomes for its people. So we must not belabor those points. We are talking today, and this is what I've observed of NPP. When they claim a policy and intervention, then all of a sudden that should be, they want to restrict the conversation to the fact that you did this, I didn't do this, and they don't want you to now explore the efficiencies or inefficiencies in those particular interventions. Right now, the entire school feeding debate is about who brought it, because when they insist on that debate, you and I will not have time to now interrogate how effective the implementation of that policy has been.
No, but first of all, we need to acknowledge who brought the policy. Then we can now interrogate the implementation and how effective it is.
What is the contest in it? No, so what are we contesting?
That they have been able to introduce such a policy
that is useful to the people of this country. You told me here that they said that NDC has not brought any social intervention. I said that is a fallacy, and it is erroneous, because if you go back and take all the major interventions in our education, in our health sector, these were started prior to NDC even, and continued from the 1992 Constitution and operationalized under the NDC administration before Kufuor came and also added on. So you can't want to be praised in the same breath as you want to discount the interventions of your opponent. It lacks integrity when you do that. When you appreciate what the foundation was that you met, and that's what you built on, when you do that, then you give life for everybody to also acknowledge what you have done. But when you come first by telling me who came before you, that I didn't do anything, I should come and lead economy where we are producing the bulk of the things that we use. That hasn't happened. Instead, what has happened? The economy has collapsed. Today,
we are told they've initiated processes to change.
Let's talk about that now. Nothing is happening.
So
we are very far.
They've brought in factories.
What factories?
The structure of the
economy.
I was
going to Waliwale. The watermelon factory that was promised the people of Waliwale has not been done. The watermelon factory, and we buy watermelon, a medium-sized watermelon in Accra for 40 Ghana cedis.
I see.
35, a medium size. I saw fat watermelons, 5 cedis, 10 cedis on my way to from Savulugu all the way to Waliwale. I saw the factory.
There's a rice processing factory at Savulugu.
That never was. Which is operationalizing,
yes.
Which is working
yes.
with the fishing women.
You're
so
right.
Are you happy? I asked the women, I went to interact with women. They said they are idling. There's nothing for them to do. The sheer processing cooperatives that they were promised, nothing has come. You see, when you go and write an exam, you'll be graded. You either get an A star, an A B plus, or an F. No government would get F, to be fair, because you would do some things. But we are measuring you by the past standard, and the past standard for excellence might be what you yourself have set for yourself. The marking scheme you have set for yourself is what we are using to measure you. $1 to 16 Ghana cedis. Do you know the forex losses that businesses have had to accrue over the past couple of years as a result of this free fall of the cedi? A cedi to dollar ratio that we're told by Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. Mr. Baumia, he told us that he has arrested the cedi and has given the key to the IGP. Now the cedi is galloping against the dollar, and exporters, importers especially, are all suffering the brunt. Unprecedented levels of borrowing. We're having debt to GDP. When I was in the media, the NDC was doing a debt to GDP ratio of like 65%. They said they haven't heard that we are approaching unmanageable debt levels at 65%. Today, where are we? We went to 104%. We went to 104. Look, as of 2002, I got some statistics that I wanted to share. As of 2002, and some of these have even changed. Our total debt was 120 billion when the NDC left in 2006.
Yeah.
And as at December 2022, it had reached 600 billion. And it is more than that now.
Yeah, currently.